Hey everybody, Greg Barron here. Thanks for joining us again today. We are entering 2024 and everybody's wondering what's going to happen. So today I've got Casey Mesner in the studio with us. He is our Bad Aid Director of Marketing for the Barron Companies. We thought we'd change up just a little bit and give you a little peek behind the curtain of just what our companies are doing, what we're doing personally and what we're doing corporately to plan for 2024. So welcome, Casey.
Before we jump into some of the heavier, complex issues around 2024, can you give us one last piece of advice to the young that are going to be coming into the workforce soon? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I hesitate to say too much because I don't want to be too preachy, because as I've always said, the world doesn't need another one of me. What it needs is another one of you. So we're all uniquely and wonderfully made. But if I had to give advice to somebody that asked me that question today, I would give them a series of statements that have been pretty much my guiding principle throughout my life. Number one is be a provocative questioner. The thing I see today that I wish I could tell somebody that they should change is just listen and ask really great questions. And when I say be a provocative questioner, I didn't create that. Peter Drucker actually did, who is a great management guru. Ask questions that lead to other questions, and then wait. So number one is learn to be a provocative questioner. Actually, that's just not for the young that are entering it. That's for all of us. I still try to adhere to that today at my older age, is I want to ask questions that lead to meaningful dialogue. Number two is stay open to opportunities. When I started the journey, I had no idea I was going to end up where I am today. If you would have told me 10 years ago that we would be in software, we would be in facility management across the country, I would have said, yeah, that's kind of a pipe dream. But leave yourself open. I call it soft openings to opportunities, and be ready to pivot. The third thing I would say is keep learning. I was one of those horrible students when I grew up. I've talked to my son about this as we've discussed, what the future holds. I didn't graduate from college until I was 26 the first time. Went back to school at night with 3 kids at that time and graduated again in finance and real estate when I was 32. And it wasn't until my 40s that I actually went into grad school. So you talk about gap years, mine were like gap decades. But the point is I kept learning. I think the one thing today even that keeps me in the game is my insatiable curiosity for things that I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one thing that I would tell young investors today is don't stop. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to continually crush it. Just consider it a marathon.
You sound a lot like Matthew McConaughey. And you look like him. He was just recently in the news. His son had come out and was just explaining how the best piece of advice his dad ever gave him was when he taught him that life is the journey, not the destination. And that's literally what you're telling us right now. There's things to learn along the way. It's not a sprint. Just because the time isn't right now doesn't mean there won't ever be a good time.
No, I think, I have the opportunity to look back. And thank you, by the way, the Matthew McConaughey resemblance.
Christmas bonus.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I would say that when I was right in the middle of most of my education, I thought this is never going to end. I don't even know what the end result is. Am I ever going to get finished? Am I ever going to have enough codified information to be able to move forward to do anything? And what I can say now looking back is I don't even remember that it was years that I did this. And I have absolutely no regrets of spending those years doing what I did and to be where we are today.
And it's not over. The destination is still not here. We're still living. It's still a journey. So there's still time to invest.
So before we pivot into the next round of questions, I do want to say this one last thing. Always have mentors in your life. Personally, I want to have 2 types. One that has a top-down view. That usually means somebody that's older than me and has been through the fire. I want them to be able to speak into me with experience. And the second is I always have what I call a 3-chord strand rule. That means 3 strands is much stronger than one. Even today, I've got people in my life that I pick up the phone. I did it this week. I have people in my life that know me, that know my tolerance for risk, that know my journey, that when I have an issue, I'm able to pick up the phone and I'm able to call and say, hey, I've got this specific question. Usually those people don't have any skin in the game.
Right.
I'm not involved with them in any partnerships. They don't have a manipulative answer, but they do give me wise counsel. Those are the 2 salient things that I would leave with young people that are watching today. Have a top-down view mentor and have those that don't have any skin in the game of your life that can counsel you along the way.
Let's jump into 2024. Do you think it's going to be another 2008, 2009?
Well, I can start off by saying I certainly hope not. Those years we were in business were some of the hardest years that we ever went through, without question. I had a lot of peers that went out of business. Personally, it was just crushing to go through those times. And it took, I think, another 10 years really to climb out of the hole that we were in. I personally don't think that 2024, 25 is going to be as severe as that. I think that there's a lot more capital in the markets. I think there's a lot more liquidity on the sidelines. I don't think I know there is. Having gone through it ourselves, we're very well positioned. We're very low debt or no debt structure at all. So we're waiting on the opportunities like other people are. I think primarily 2024 is going to give us a lot of head fakes. As I said in one of my most recent videos, I do believe that 24, you're going to see pressure on the Fed to start to pivot. I don't think that's going to happen very fast. I don't want to regurgitate what I said last time, but I anticipate 2 to 4 rate reductions. So look, there's been 11 rate hikes. We've doubled the interest rate. Inflation has gone from 9% to 3.2% as we're speaking here today. I just don't think there's going to be a tremendous movement downward, even though there's going to be pressure in the election year to do it. There's going to be a lot of talking heads that are going to say lower, lower, lower. But in actuality, if they do pivot too quickly, that we actually move into hyperinflation. It's a real balancing act right now. I think we're going to have 2 to 4 movements. I think we're going to have a lot of head fakes along the way. I don't think long-term interest rates are going to get down below 5% to unlock what we call the lock-in effect for people to move in the housing market. And as I've said before, I think the rental market's still going to be strong because people can't buy houses. And I also feel that inflation is not going to hit 2%. So we're going to be well into 2025 before we see any structural changes to the economy as we know it today.
Do you think you'll do any investing in 2024?
I would say that's a big depends. I don't know. And I say that in all sincerity because we will continue to look at a multitude of deals. I mean, let's face it, we've got a large staff still that we've got to generate things with. We're going to stay conservative. We're going to be very prudent. We're going to continue to look at deal after deal after deal. And luckily, we've got a system and a software to be able to do that quickly and efficiently. And if there is one in striking distance, we're going to make a play for it. But most of my peers are saying, look, I'm looking at hundreds of deals. Nothing's working right now. So is it an economy where we keep our pencils down? Well, maybe.
And how do you answer maybe? How do you know when it's in striking distance? How do you know when it's time?
Well, I think I take all the emotion out of it. I don't look at deals emotionally. I don't have to, and I don't think anybody should. Now, there are some companies that there's a lot of pressure to make the deal, to generate fees, to keep their jobs. We don't have that scenario. We can still be prudent. I would say to the audience, I would say to most of the audience, just be prudent and be patient. You are going to have your opportunity. And I'll repeat myself again. Get your muscle memory ready.
So going back to what you were talking about, and you were talking about sellers and buyers and their criteria weren't being met. How do you know when your criteria is met? When do you know it's time to invest?
So I think what you're saying is what everybody's saying in the real estate industry is sellers and buyers' expectations haven't been aligned. That's how we explain that. I also like to say that price is irrelevant. And some will say, well, yeah, it's always relevant. No, it's not. It's irrelevant to me prior to striking a deal with somebody, because what I'll do is I'll take a deal and I'll take the data points, I'll shove them into Performa Plus, and I'll determine based upon my criteria what that purchase price should be, but it's my price. It's not a seller's price. So in essence, a purchase price that I see is irrelevant. Now, it has to be in the ballpark. It has to be something that looks worthy of even going through the exercise. But in the end, I develop my own price based upon my determination, my criteria for my returns, and then I submit that offer to them. That's how we particularly look at every deal. Hey, Casey, let me stop for just a second and ask the audience, what are your goals for 2024?
Why don't you guys go ahead and drop your goals for 2024 in the comment box?
Hey, also, if you like the content, be sure and like and subscribe to keep us pushing out these videos every week. Unfortunately or fortunately, whichever side of the balance sheet you're on, you're going to see a wider chasm of the middle class and the upper class. I've seen this happen every time there's been this great cleansing of the market like this. You have a transition of wealth from one to the other, and that chasm gets wider and wider.
Okay, so are you saying it's time to put the pencil down?
No, I'm not saying totally put your pencils down, but what I am saying is you're probably going to spend more time educating than you are executing right now.
This was a very insightful conversation. I appreciate all the advice that you gave our followers, and I look forward to hearing more videos from you in 2024.
Casey, thank you for being here. You're a great addition to the team. And to all the followers out there, remember, educate, evaluate, so that you can ultimately execute for your financial wealth.